When you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching. There is a sound behind all sounds, a stillness beneath all noise, a space beneath your thoughts where nothing is missing and nothing needs to be fixed. You've been chasing so long, haven't you? Trying to outrun your restlessness, trying to grasp peace as if it were something to acquire. But what if peace isn't something you get? It's what you return to when you let go of everything else. The mind is a river that never stops moving, but you are not the river. You are the watcher. You are the silent bank where the water rushes by. You are the sky where thoughts drift like clouds, temporary passing weightless if left alone. But when you believe the cloud is you, when you chase the river, that's when suffering begins. Zen does not give you anything. It takes away what you were never meant to carry. They asked the master, "What is Zen?" He poured a cup of tea, then kept pouring, until it overflowed. The student cried out, "It's full, no more can go in." And the master said, "Like this cup, you are full of your opinions, your fears, your memories. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the absence of resistance. We are all waves returning to the ocean, but the wave forgets. It is made of water. It fears the crash. It fights the tide, and so it suffers. But when the wave remembers, "I am not just this form, I am the sea itself," fear dissolves. There is no birth, no death, just movement and stillness, both sacred. You've been taught to fight, to achieve, to define yourself by effort. But the truth is softer, more dangerous to the ego, because it cannot be earned. It can only be allowed. The tree does not grow by force. The wind does not try to blow, and the sun never competes to shine. In stillness, you return to your nature. In stillness, you become real. Sit, breathe, let go of the story you keep telling yourself. The one that says you're not enough yet. The one that says you must prove or become or fix yourself. That voice is not truth, it is a habit, and all habits can dissolve in the fire of attention. What are you without your next thought? Who are you when no one is watching? Strip away the name, strip away the role, the fears, the pride, the craving to be seen, and you meet yourself not as an identity, but as presence. This is the beginning of true awakening. A monk once said, "Before enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. After enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. Nothing changed except the one who sees. The world remains, but the filter through which you perceive it fades. And in that fading, life glows again. The mundane becomes sacred. The ordinary becomes divine. Let go, not of the world, but of the one grasping at it. Your suffering is not caused by events. It is caused by your resistance to them. It is your clinging, your judging, your refusal to surrender, like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter you grip, the more you lose. Stillness is not passive. It is powerful. A calm mind sees clearly. A still heart moves wisely. In that silence, the truth is not something you find. It is what is revealed when all seeking stops. That is the great paradox of Zen. The path begins when you stop searching. You are already the thing you're chasing. You are already the peace you seek. The very act of seeking affirms its absence. But when you become still, radically still, you see it was here behind your breath, beneath the mind all along. Do not wait for life to be perfect before you return to yourself. Chaos is a good teacher, pain is a great mirror, and suffering is the bell that calls you back home. In the depth of winter, you will find in yourself an invincible summer. The ego will resist this. It will say, "Yes, but not yet. I'll be still after I achieve, after I fix this, after I heal." But Zen smiles and replies, "Not after, now. Now is the only doorway to forever. The ego lives in time. The soul lives in now. There is nowhere to go, nowhere to be, no goal to attain, only this breath, only this moment, and this is enough." Watch how the mind tries to escape it, planning, remembering, fearing, controlling, but return again and again and again, like the tide returns to the shore, until returning becomes resting. You do not find stillness. You remember it. You remember what it felt like before the noise, before the striving, before the world convinced you that you were incomplete. In that remembrance, healing begins. The master does not scream over the mind's noise. He whispers through it, and the student only hears when he becomes still enough to listen. So listen, not with your ears, but with your being, not to reply, but to receive. Even now, the mind is looking for the next thing, the next line, the next answer, but let it be. Let the wave pass, let the wind blow, let the silence deepen. Everything you seek is on the other side of that stillness. Do not be afraid of the silence. It is not emptiness, it is fullness without noise. It is not the absence of life, it is life before it needs to explain itself. In the silence, you realize that all the names you've collected, all the masks you've worn, all the victories and failures, they are just echoes in a vast and quiet sky. There is no enlightenment apart from this moment. There is no freedom outside of now. The mountain does not climb itself. The moon does not reflect on water by effort, and you, your truest self, does not awaken through force, but through stillness, the very thing you're avoiding. The silence, the sitting, the not doing, that is the gateway. We spend so much time trying to become someone, but the way is not about becoming. It is about unbecoming, shedding, peeling away the false layers until what remains is pure, undivided, and silent, like the surface of a calm lake before a single ripple moves across it. Can you see how much of your suffering is born from trying to become something in the eyes of others? The ego craves applause, but the soul craves stillness. One can never satisfy the other. The applause fades. The stillness remains. So which will you serve? A Zen monk was once asked, "How do you find peace?" He said, "I wake up, I wash my bowl, I sweep the floor." The questioner said, "But everyone does that." And the monk replied, "Not like this, not with resistance, not with ego, not with grasping, but with complete presence, with no remainder of mind left wandering. This is the heart of Zen, not what you do, but how you do it. Not the form, but the awareness behind the form. Do not wait for the perfect place to practice stillness. The world will never quiet for you, but you can become quiet within it. A noisy street, a crowded room, a moment of heartbreak. These too are temples if you bring presence to them. The Buddha sat under a tree and touched the earth. That was all. He did not argue, he did not fight. He simply became so still that truth had no choice but to reveal itself. And that truth lives in you, beneath the fears, beneath the noise, beneath the pretending. The ego says I must fix everything before I can rest. Zen says rest and everything will begin to fix itself. Because peace is not a reward, it is the foundation. It is the soil from which clarity grows like a lotus rising from the mud. Have you noticed how your breath doesn't need your help? How your heart beats without your permission? There is a wisdom already moving in you beyond the mind. Let that be enough. Trust it. Be carried by it. Return to it. This is surrender, not defeat, but returning to the flow that never stopped carrying you. When you stop trying to control life, life begins to unfold with more grace than you ever imagined. You will lose things, yes. People will leave. Plans will fail. But in the stillness you'll realize nothing real can ever be lost. What is true remains. What is essential cannot be taken. You think you need answers, but more than answers, you need to stop asking from the mind. Sit in the silence long enough, and you'll find that peace doesn't come when the questions are all answered. Peace comes when the questions no longer disturb you. This is the stillness the masters speak of. It is not numbness. It is not indifference. It is not retreat. It is a deep, open presence that embraces everything. It sees the beauty in a single falling leaf, It weeps with compassion for the suffering of others. It laughs without needing a reason. It walks slowly. It breathes deeply. It loves without condition. And in this stillness, the boundaries begin to fade. The me and you, the good and bad, the past and future, they dissolve like mist under morning sun. And you are left not as a separate thing, but as awareness itself, quiet, boundless, alive. So let the mind scream, let the emotions surge, let the world whirl outside. But you sit like a mountain. You breathe like the ocean. You burn like a candle that asks for nothing. And in that silence, the universe will whisper truths you forgot you knew. Don't seek the light, become still enough that the light finds you. There is a kind of wisdom that can't be spoken, only lived. A knowing that doesn't arrive through thought, but through presence. You don't arrive at it by collecting more, by racing toward the next answer. You arrive by removing what is false, by releasing what is heavy, by finally mercifully putting down what was never yours to carry. Stillness is not about isolation. It's not retreating to mountaintops or monasteries. Stillness is presence in the middle of chaos. It is the eye in the hurricane, unmoved by the spinning winds. It is the soft gaze that sees pain and does not flinch. It is the soul that has surrendered the illusion of control. You do not need to fix yourself. You need to see yourself clearly. And when the seeing is pure, the change happens on its own, not from effort, but from alignment, from remembering what it means to be whole. You are not broken, you are buried beneath layers of fear, expectation, comparison, noise, and every breath you take in stillness is a shovel, a soft and holy digging, not to build something new, but to uncover what's been waiting in silence all along. The ego thrives in doing, but the soul wakes up in being. There is nothing you must accomplish to be worthy of this peace. There is no test to pass, no role to play. Stillness is not a reward for success. It is the beginning of sanity. The Zen master Dogen once said, "To study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. And to forget the self is to be awakened by all things." In stillness, you begin this forgetting, not in a careless way, but in a sacred way. You forget the false self, the anxious story, the hardened mask, the endless performing, and what you are left with is spaciousness, a kind of gentle emptiness that is full of life. Try this, do nothing, just for a moment, not meditate, not breathe deeply with intention, not focus or affirm, just sit. Let everything be as it is. Let the tension be there. Let the thoughts be there. Let the silence hold it all. And you will discover you are not the contents of the moment. You are the space in which the moment appears. There is no enlightenment apart from now. There is no freedom apart from surrender. What you run from, that is your gate. What you resist, that is your master. And what you accept, that is your medicine. Stillness does not avoid pain. It opens to it without fear. It drinks the bitterness and finds sweetness on the other side. One breath. That's all it takes to begin again. One breath of total presence. One exhale that carries away the weight of 1,000 unfinished yesterdays. The past is smoke. The future is mist. But this breath is the doorway into reality, into now. And what is now? It is the sound of birds outside your window. It is the sensation of your chest rising. It is the silence between these words. It is life unfiltered. Life before your mind adds commentary. And in that untouched life there is peace. Not the peace of pleasure, but the peace of acceptance. The peace that remains even when the storm does not pass. Do not be ashamed of your restlessness. Do not fight your mind. That only feeds it. Instead, become the witness, not the judge, just the witness. Notice how thought arises, how it moves, how it fades. Notice the hunger behind your scrolling, the tightness behind your smile, the subtle ache of always needing something to be different, and just watch. Let it dance, let it exhaust itself. You don't need to chase calm. You need to stop running from yourself. Stillness is the greatest rebellion in a world that profits from your distraction. It is the soft refusal to rush, the sacred resistance to numbness, the courageous act of facing what's here fully honestly without needing it to change. The lotus blooms in muddy water, so will you. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions. You don't have to clean your past or silence every fear. Begin where you are, begin in the middle of the mess. The mind will scream that it's not the right time, but the soul whispers this is always the right time. And in that whisper is your path. Not a path you walk with footsteps, but a path you awaken to with awareness. A path that was never outside you. A path that reveals itself in the pause, in the listening, in the daring act of being utterly, radically present. What if nothing is missing? What if you are already held by something vast and sacred and real, something that doesn't need you to be better, faster, more spiritual, more wise? What if that something is the very space you're sitting in now, the very breath you're taking now, the very self you keep trying to improve? The way is simple, not easy, but simple. Be here, feel everything, let go, repeat. Stillness is not found, it is uncovered. And you uncover it by daring to do the one thing the modern world has forgotten: stop. Stop running, stop performing, stop reaching for the next insight, the next solution, the next version of yourself. You are not a project to be managed. You are not a brand to be marketed. You are a flame of awareness in a world that has forgotten how to sit in the dark. Let yourself burn quietly. No need for show, just the soft glow of presence, steady and warm. Have you noticed how tired you are, not just in body, but in spirit? The fatigue of constantly proving, the exhaustion of holding your breath for a life that keeps demanding more. This is not your fault. The world teaches us to run, to accumulate, to mask our wounds with noise and movement. But Zen invites you to turn around, to face the silence, to kneel before the moment and say, I'm ready to stop fighting. And in that moment, something opens, not outside you, but within, like the petals of a flower long forgotten, unfolding in the sunlight of surrender. You don't have to name this, you don't have to explain it, just feel it. Feel what it's like to rest without shame, to exist without improvement, to be without needing a reason. They say the truth will set you free. But in Zen, the truth doesn't arrive like thunder. It arrives like breath, like water, like wind moving through tall grass. You have to be very still to notice it. You have to unclench the fists of your mind, loosen the armor of your heart. Then truth begins to whisper. And what does it whisper? It says there is no problem, not in this moment. The problem is the mind's resistance, the mind's story, the need to fix, change, control. But when you meet life as it is, with no argument, no defense, suffering dissolves. What remains is clean and clear and unspeakably alive. There was a time you knew this, when you were very small, before they told you who to be. You knew how to watch the rain fall without needing a reason. You knew how to lie in the grass and become the sky. You weren't waiting to be better, you were simply here, fully here. That child hasn't left. Stillness brings you back to that original innocence. Not childishness, but purity. The kind that feels like coming home. Let yourself come home. Do not be seduced by the mind's noise. It will pretend to help you, but it only multiplies confusion. The mind wants more understanding, more meaning, more progress, but the soul wants less. Fewer walls, fewer masks, less doing, less noise. Stillness is the soul's native language. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Smile, breathe, and go slowly." What if that was enough, not as a technique, but as a way of living? What if slowing down wasn't laziness, but wisdom? What if breathing deeply wasn't indulgent, but sacred? What if smiling not as performance, but as presence, was the highest form of prayer? When you begin to move slowly, the world softens. You start to notice things, the rustle of leaves, the texture of your own breath, the silence between your thoughts. And in that, noticing a great remembering begins. You remember that peace is not the absence of difficulty, it is the absence of resistance. This is the path to inner stillness, not a straight line but a spiral, a gentle circling back to now, over and over, and every time you return the silence welcomes you, like an old friend. No judgment, no test, just open arms. You might cry, you might shake, you might want to run. That's okay. It's part of the cleansing. The body remembers what the mind has forgotten. Let it release, let it weep, let it fall apart. There is no shame in unraveling. In fact, unraveling is the doorway to truth. Stillness does not mean nothing happens. It means everything that needs to happen happens in the right time, without force, without fear, like a flower opening, like a sunrise unfolding. You are not here to push the sun, you are here to witness it. Watch how life moves without you having to fix it, how the heart keeps beating, how healing comes when you stop interrupting the process. Let life breathe, let the wound speak, let the space heal you. That is the way. And if you forget which, you will return gently, with no shame. That's the practice, not to be perfect, not to be always calm, but to return again and again like the tide. Stillness is not a state you achieve, it's a relationship you nurture, one that welcomes you no matter how long you've been gone. So pause now, just for a breath. Let the silence wrap around you like a cloak. Let the thoughts pass like wind through bamboo. No need to chase, no need to analyze, just witness, just be. And in that being, feel what it means to belong, not to a role, not to a goal, but to existence itself. This is stillness. And this is the beginning of freedom. Freedom is not loud. It does not arrive with trumpets or fanfare. It doesn't shout its name or demand attention. True freedom arrives quietly. It enters like breath through an open window. It is the stillness after a storm, the moment after the tear, when everything unnecessary has fallen away. That is when you begin to feel the truth, not as a belief, but as a direct experience. The world is full of noise telling you who to be, but silence invites you to remember who you are. You are not your job. You are not your roles. You are not your image. You are not the thoughts that come and go. You are not the pain you carry or the story that surrounds it. You are the awareness beneath it all, pure, clear, untouched. Let that awareness become your home again. This world will pull at you. It will ask for your attention, your reaction, your energy, but you don't have to give it all away. You can sit, you can breathe, you can allow life to come to you, rather than chasing it with desperate hands. The flower doesn't run toward the sun, it opens, and the sun meets it there. So open, not with effort, not with urgency, but like the earth opens to the rain naturally, gently, with trust. The ego thrives on urgency. It lives in not enough. It is the endless hunger for more knowledge, more control, more praise, more guarantees. But stillness cuts through this hunger like a blade through mist. Stillness says you were never lacking. The moment you stopped grasping, you remembered you were whole. And it's true, isn't it? Haven't there been moments when even for a breath you stopped chasing, when everything went quiet, not outside but inside? Maybe it was the way the light filtered through the trees. Maybe it was the hush of snow falling. Maybe it was someone's voice, soft and unhurried, that reminded you to exhale. Those were not accidents. Those were glimpses, echoes of your original state, a stillness that was always there waiting patiently beneath the noise, not asking for your perfection, only your presence. We forget that peace is simple. That healing is not about becoming someone new, but shedding who we're not. That awakening is not a lightning bolt. It's the slow dissolving of illusion, like frost melting in the sun. The Zen masters teach this with stories. A monk walks for miles to ask the great master the meaning of enlightenment. The master looks at him and says, "Have you eaten your rice?" The monk replies, "Yes." And the master says, "Then wash your bowl." That's it. No great sermon, no cosmic answer, just the reminder. Be here. Do what you're doing, fully, with presence, with care. This is how stillness teaches, not through philosophy but through experience. It shows us that nothing is too small for reverence. That washing a bowl, folding clothes, closing a door, these can be sacred if done without resistance, without mental noise, without trying to be anywhere else but here. And that's the key. Presence. Real presence. The kind that doesn't wait for a special moment, but makes every moment special. The kind that doesn't separate the spiritual from the ordinary, because it sees the ordinary as the very gateway to the divine. Stillness is not an escape from life. It is the deepest participation in it. It allows you to meet pain without fear, to hold joy without clinging, to face endings without collapse. Because in the quiet you realize all things rise and fall, all things appear and vanish, but the awareness behind them remains. You do not need to explain your peace to anyone. You do not need to justify your calm. You do not need to prove your path. Let your stillness speak louder than your defense. Let your silence teach louder than your argument. A tree does not need to convince the wind of its roots. It simply stands, deep, grounded, unshaken. You too can learn to root yourself in something deeper than circumstances, something more stable than outcomes. Root yourself in awareness, in being, and watch what happens. The same chaos that once overwhelmed you becomes background music. The same fear that used to control you loses its grip. The same mind that once spun endlessly starts to slow. It may not stop, but it no longer drives. You begin to live from another place, not from force, but from flow, not from fear, but from freedom. And this shift is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, subtle, profound, like the turning of the tide, like the rising of the sun. And you will forget again. You will get caught in the noise, the drama, the proving. That's okay. That's human. Stillness doesn't expect perfection. It invites return. Always return. The breath is your anchor. The moment is your temple. Come back again and again until the coming back becomes your way of living. This is the quiet revolution, the inner awakening, the soft undoing of everything that never belonged. Stillness is not a technique. It is a remembering. It is not something you do. It is what you are. You were not born frantic. You were not born with a racing mind, a clenched jaw, a heart that runs ahead of your breath. These are not your natural states. They are learned, inherited, absorbed. The world taught you movement as survival. It taught you fear as motivation. But the deeper truth, the one that never left you, whispers in the quiet stillness, is your origin. Before the striving, before the names, before the self-image and the stories and the deep need to become something, there was only presence, awareness without narrative, life without identity, and it is still here, hidden in the pause between thoughts waiting behind the curtains of noise. What would happen if just for a breath you let go of being you, not forever, not dramatically, just for this moment? Let go of the identity, the roles, the expectations. Let go of the inner dialogue that says I must, I should, I always, I never. Let it all fall away. What remains? Just this, just now, just awareness, spacious, unbound, quiet. That space is what the sages pointed to. That space is what they meant when they said, you are already free. But we forget, again and again, because the ego wants something to do, something to fix, something to chase. It fears rest because in rest it cannot survive. The ego is a fire that feeds on next. Stillness is the water that puts it out. This is why doing nothing is so hard, because it threatens the illusion of identity. But let it threaten, let it unravel. You were never meant to live imprisoned by your thoughts. You are not the narrator. You are the presence in which the narration occurs. You are not the wave. You are the ocean watching it rise and fall. Dissolving the ego is not an act of violence. It is an act of compassion. It is soft, like mist lifting in the morning sun. No pushing, no condemning, just seeing clearly. And in that clarity, the ego has nowhere to hide. It shrinks not because it was fought, but because it was finally seen. And when you begin to see, truly see, you understand stillness is not a pause from life. Stillness is life without illusion. It's not detachment, it's intimacy. It's not withdrawal, it's immersion deeper than the surface ever allowed. A Zen master once said, "When walking, walk. When eating, eat." It sounds simple, but in that simplicity is a radical teaching. Be here. Don't divide yourself. Don't split into the act and the thinking about the act. Just live. Just breathe. Just be the thing you're doing completely. In the modern world, this is revolutionary. We scroll while we eat. We plan while we talk. We analyze while we feel. Always elsewhere, always ahead, always fragmented. And we wonder why we feel lost. But stillness puts the pieces back together. It reunites you with now. It glues your soul back into your body. So practice not as effort, but as return. Return to your feet as they walk. Return to your hands as they touch. Return to your breath as it rises and falls. Not because it's a trick, but because it's the only place life is truly happening. Even pain, when met in presence, becomes something holy. You no longer suffer the pain. You feel it. Directly, clearly, without the noise of resistance. And in that clarity, even pain softens. Even sorrow becomes a teacher. Stillness does not erase difficulty. It transforms your relationship with it. You stop fearing it. You stop fighting it. You learn to bow to it. There is grace in bowing, not as defeat, but as humility, as surrender, as the moment you stop insisting that life obey your plans, and instead you begin to move with life, like the leaf on the river, like the bird on the wind. This is not weakness. This is strength beyond measure, because anyone can fight, anyone can clench, anyone can force. But to soften, to yield, to allow, that takes a courage the world rarely honors. But the masters knew, the Buddha knew. He sat beneath the Bodhi tree and did nothing, not because he was lazy, but because he finally understood the answers are not out there. They arise from within when the mind grows still and the heart grows quiet. And so he sat, day after day, through temptation, through fear, through the storms of his own mind, and he touched the earth, not with pride, not with drama, just with presence. That is what awakened him. You too can touch the earth, not with your hands, but with your being. Sit with your life, just as it is. Don't run, don't decorate, don't edit, just sit, and something ancient will rise in you, something that remembers. You were never separate, you were never alone, you were never broken, you only believed you were. And belief too is a passing cloud. It has no roots. Let it pass, let all things pass. Not because you don't care, but because caring doesn't mean clinging. Caring can be still. Loving can be quiet. Living can be soft. The loudest truths are whispered, and you can only hear them in silence. Listen closely. Can you hear it? That quiet space between your thoughts. That moment of stillness between your inhale and your exhale. That is not emptiness, that is presence. That is life untouched by noise. It is not waiting for your permission. It is always here, always open, always patient. But to dwell there, you must become empty. Not broken empty. Empty of assumptions, of judgment, of identity. You must allow all the unnecessary to fall away. The masks, the performances, the constant commentary of the mind that tries to narrate your worth. Because when all of that drops, what remains is something so intimate, so honest, so alive, it can only be described in silence. This is the paradox. You lose everything, and in doing so, you find what cannot be taken. Stillness is not hiding. Stillness is exposure. It brings you face to face with your rawest self. No distractions, no filters. And that can be terrifying, because what if you find emptiness there? What if you find a void? But the great masters smiled at that fear, because they knew the void is not nothingness. It is spaciousness. It is peace. It is the ground of being itself. When the self disappears, what's left is not absence. It is wholeness. Can you allow that much space inside you? Can you rest in it without rushing to fill it with identity, goals, or labels? This is the challenge: to remain open, to remain silent, to resist the urge to define yourself again. Because definition is a cage, a name is a wall, a label is a contract you did not sign. Let them fall and discover how light you become. A cloud does not ask what it is. A bird does not define itself before it flies. Only the human mind clings to names. But the soul, your soul, it doesn't need a label. It only needs permission to be. So give it permission. Let it breathe. Let it take up space. Let it rest in the soft knowing that it belongs, not because it proved itself, but because existence itself is already enough. We don't need more knowledge. We need more silence. We don't need more doing. We need more being. We don't need to be told how to live. We need to remember what it means to be alive. And being alive is not a checklist. It is not success. It is not approval. Being alive is standing barefoot in the grass, feeling the earth hum beneath your skin. It is the ache in your chest when someone speaks the truth. It is the breath that returns to you when you stop holding it hostage. Stillness gives you back to yourself. It doesn't give you answers. It doesn't fix your problems. It doesn't promise ease, but it gives you presence. And in presence, the problems lose their teeth. The questions stop screaming. The stories begin to dissolve. And what's left is a clarity so pure it needs no explanation. You begin to move differently, speak differently, love differently, not because you've changed, but because what was false has fallen away. And what remains, what always remains, is your original face, the one you had before the world told you who to be. In Zen, they call this returning to the source. It is not going backwards. It is returning inward, to the place that was never lost, to the quiet beneath the chaos, to the center that does not move, no matter what the mind says, no matter what the world demands, no matter what you've done or failed to do. The source does not change. It waits, patient, silent, like the sky, no matter how many clouds pass through it. So sit, just sit, not for a goal, not for a result, just to remember, just to be what you already are. Even now, a part of your mind may be resisting this, asking, but what about my responsibilities? What about my healing? What about my purpose? Let it ask, let it spin. That part is not your enemy. It is only afraid of disappearing, afraid that if it doesn't run the show, nothing will happen. But watch what happens when you do nothing. Watch what arises when you stop interfering. The breath continues, the heart beats, the wind moves, life flows. It always has. You were never in control. You were only clenching. Stillness helps you unclench. And when you do, the tenderness that floods back into your body might surprise you. The tears that rise may come without story. They don't need one. It's just life returning, emotion returning, sensitivity returning after being exiled by effort for so long. This sensitivity is your power, not the loud, dominating kind, but the quiet power of presence, the steady power of compassion, the unstoppable power of clarity, because a mind that sees clearly does not act from fear, and a heart that has become still can hold the world without breaking. Do not be afraid to slow down, to step back, to stop trying to figure everything out. Life is not a riddle to solve. It is a song to be heard. And you, your real self, you are the silence in which that song echoes. Let that silence fill you. Let it hold you like a parent holds a newborn, not because you earned it, but because you are it. You are the silence. You are the space. You are the stillness in which life appears. You don't need to understand this with your mind. You only need to feel it in your chest, in your breath, in the subtle shift that happens when the noise fades and you begin to hear your life again, not the life built on roles and tasks and comparison, but the life that pulses underneath it all, the raw life, the sacred life, the life that asks nothing of you except that you show up with your whole being. Stillness is not a refusal to move. It is a refusal to be moved by what doesn't matter. It is not detachment from the world. It is intimacy without possession. To sit in stillness is not to abandon your life, but to meet it fully, with eyes open, with breath steady, with no part of you hiding. And you will find the deeper you go into this silence that there is nothing to fix, only something to feel, something to face, something to let fall apart gently so that it can return in its true form. This is not about becoming better. This is about remembering that you already are. Zen is not interested in polishing the ego. It is interested in seeing through it, because the ego is always afraid. It measures, it competes, it calculates. It is always running because it knows if it stops, you might remember the truth. And the truth is, you were never the ego to begin with. You are not the voice in your head. You are the space in which that voice arises. You are not your opinions, not your history, not even your thoughts. All of that is content. You are the context, the sky, not the weather, the ocean, not the wave. This realization is not loud. It doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with a breath, a soft exhale that finally says, I can stop pretending. And in that stopping, you become real. Stillness does not demand silence outside. It awakens silence inside, a silence so deep, so natural, it can hold all sound without being disturbed. This silence is not indifferent. It is not numb. It is alive, compassionate, awake. It is what holds the tears when words fail, what carries you when the mind can't make sense of the loss, what stays with you in the middle of the night when nothing else can reach you. This is the stillness you're returning to, not a mood, not a trick, but the deepest part of your nature, the unmoving center of all movement. Let your life orbit around this stillness. Let your speech rise from it. Let your choices align with it. You don't need to announce it to the world. Stillness doesn't shout, it just is. And in being it transforms. The world is noisy. It wants your reaction, but you do not have to give it. You can pause, you can listen. You can be the calm in the room, the deep breath in the storm, the space where people feel safe to be human. This is the power of stillness. It doesn't dominate. It invites. It invites others to slow down, to breathe, to let go, to come home to themselves just by being in your presence. Not because you said anything, not because you taught them anything, but because you became what they forgot was possible. And that is the greatest teaching of all. Not words, not methods, not instructions, but your presence. Become so still that your very being is a mirror, so calm that others find their peace reflected in your eyes, so open that others feel safe to drop their masks. This is the silent work of the awakened heart. It needs no stage, no spotlight, just attention, just honesty, just love without needing to speak its name. Stillness does not mean withdrawing from life. It means returning to it with such presence that everything you touch becomes sacred. Every moment becomes enough. Every breath becomes a prayer. So let yourself slow, let yourself feel, let yourself return. And when you forget which you will, don't make it a problem. Don't make it a failure. Stillness doesn't judge, it welcomes. It says, you forgot, that's okay, come back. And that coming back is the practice. That coming back is the real path. You're not late, you're not broken, you're not behind, you're here, and here is holy. Sit with that. Breathe with that. Let it become your ground. Let it become the soil where your life can grow slowly, gently, truthfully. Not in a straight line, not with perfection, but with depth. Because deep roots don't grow in noise. They grow in silence. And you, beloved soul, are meant to root deeply into yourself. So the world cannot shake you, so time cannot rush you, so fear cannot own you. Be still and know that you are already whole. There is nothing more radical in this world than a person who has learned how to be still. Not passive, not numb, not withdrawn, but deeply awake, deeply grounded, deeply present. This kind of stillness cannot be faked. It cannot be mimicked or manufactured. It comes from a soul that has burned away everything false, a soul that has sat in the fire of its own unrest and refused to run. And that fire, you know it. It lives in your chest. The ache of constantly needing more, the tension in your shoulders, the breath that never quite reaches the bottom of your lungs. It is the part of you that is always reaching, always fearing, always proving. But beneath that fire, there is stillness. And beneath that stillness, there is truth. And beneath that truth, there is you. Not the you that you present to the world, not the you that has been shaped by praise or rejection, but the unnameable awareness that watches it all. The you that doesn't need a story to exist. The you that is content to be. That is the destination of all paths. And yet it is not a destination at all, because stillness is not somewhere you arrive. It is what remains when the journey stops, when the grasping ends, when the last illusion dissolves in the silence of your own attention. The Zen masters were not obsessed with answers. They were in love with presence. They did not need to explain truth, they embodied it. In the way they walked, in the way they drank tea, in the way they looked at the sky, everything was sacred because they had become sacred. Not because they were special, but because they had remembered what you are remembering now. When you stop running, the sacredness of life becomes obvious. Do not wait for permission to be at peace. Do not wait for the world to settle before you settle. Peace is not something you find at the end of a perfect day. It is something you choose breath by breath, no matter what the day brings. That is what makes it powerful. That is what makes it yours. And yes, some days you will forget. Some days the waves will be too loud, the emotions too strong, the mind too fast. Stillness will feel far away. But that's when the practice becomes real. Not when everything is easy, but when nothing is. That's when you remember the silence is not gone. You just have to stop and listen. No matter how loud the storm, the ocean floor remains still. You are that ocean floor. And from that stillness, a new kind of movement is born. A movement that is not reactive but intentional, not desperate but deliberate. A movement that flows from alignment, not from anxiety. This is the dance of the awakened life. A life rooted in stillness but expressed in action. A life that touches the world but is not consumed by it. Imagine living like that. Imagine walking into a room and not shrinking, not puffing up, just being, fully, quietly, without apology. Imagine saying yes only when you mean it, saying no without guilt. Imagine looking at your own reflection and seeing not a project but a friend. That kind of life is possible, but it begins here. Not in doing more, but in doing less. Not in becoming someone, but in unbecoming everything you're not. Let this be your devotion. Let stillness be your altar. Let each breath be a bow. Let each moment be a prayer. Not the kind spoken with words, but the kind spoken with presence. There is nowhere to go. There is nothing to chase. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are here. And here is enough. If you do nothing else today, just pause. Put your hand on your heart. Close your eyes and listen. Not to the mind, not to the noise, but to the silence underneath. That silence knows your name. That silence remembers your truth. That silence is you returning to yourself. And when you live from that place, even ordinary things begin to shimmer. The sound of the wind through leaves, the weight of a cup in your hands, the light on the floor. None of it is small anymore, because now you are awake enough to notice it. Stillness makes life large again. It stretches time. It expands beauty. It reveals the mystery you forgot was always there. You don't need to understand it. You just need to live it. Walk slowly. Speak honestly. Love gently. And above all, stay close to the silence. Not as escape, but as the deepest truth of who you are. The farther you walk into silence, the more clearly you hear what was always speaking. Not the voice of fear, not the chatter of the mind, but the voice beneath all voices, the one that never forces, never demands, never fears. It simply is. And when you hear it, really hear it, A wave of recognition passes through you like warm rain on dry earth. You remember what you never truly forgot. This voice says you are enough. Not because you've achieved, not because you've improved, but because existence flows through you as naturally as breath. You do not need to be good to deserve peace. You only need to be here. Not here in thought, not here in role, but here in being. Strip away the layers, let the false fall, let every mask crack at its seams. What remains is not emptiness, it's truth. Stillness is the space where truth breathes. And the more you touch it, the more fearless you become. Not because you've armored yourself, but because you've let go of the armor entirely. You've discovered that vulnerability is not weakness, it is the gateway to grace. Zen teaches us not to conquer fear, but to look directly into it, to sit with it, to let it burn if it must. And as it burns, you realize you are not the one being consumed. You are the one watching the fire, unharmed, unmoved, present. Stillness gives you back your strength, not the strength of domination, but the strength of presence. The strength to stay, the strength to feel, the strength to live with your heart undefended. And in this quiet power, love takes root. Not the romantic love that rises and falls, but the steady love that asks for nothing. The love that simply is. The love that watches a child sleep and feels the whole world slow. The love that stands at a grave and knows that nothing truly dies. The love that looks at pain and does not turn away. Stillness is what allows love to grow roots. Without it, love becomes just another grasping, just another performance. But with stillness, love becomes the way you see, the way you listen, the way you show up without needing anything in return. This is the ground of your being. This is your natural state. You were not born to chase. You were born to remember. You were born to sit like the mountain, unmoved in presence, soft in heart. You were born to carry silence into a world starving for it. Don't underestimate the power of your stillness. One person rooted in presence brings more peace into the world than 1,000 voices shouting about it. You don't have to fix anyone. You don't have to change the world. Just become the still point within it. And from that center, everything begins to align. But the mind will resist. It will scream for stimulation. It will demand identity. It will panic at the idea of stillness, because in stillness the mind loses its kingdom. It can no longer pretend to be who you are. Let it scream, let it panic, let it fall apart, then breathe and return. You don't need to silence the mind. You just need to stop believing it. Watch your thoughts like leaves on a stream. Watch your emotions like weather on a window. Watch your fears like shadows moving across the floor. None of them are you. You are the one who watches. And when you become the watcher, the entire game changes. You stop reacting, you stop explaining, you stop trying to win, and you start living. You live more slowly, more honestly, more fully. You begin to enjoy silence the way others enjoy noise. You begin to value space, rest, depth. You begin to see that what you were calling life was just speed, and what you now call stillness is the first breath you've taken in years. It is not boring, it is not empty, it is vast. Stillness stretches out before you like a great ocean, quiet, endless, sacred. It asks nothing, it offers everything. And the only cost is your willingness to stop chasing what you never needed in the first place. So be still now, not tomorrow, not when things settle, not after you've healed. Now, close your eyes if you must, or keep them open and soft. But wherever you are, let the breath anchor you. Let this very moment rise to meet you, not to be judged, not to be fixed, but to be received. You are not late. You have not missed anything. You are the moment, and the moment is always on time. Even now, you may feel the urge to return to the noise. That's okay. Just watch that urge. Don't follow it. Let it rise. Let it fade. Let it go. You are learning a new way, a slower way, a quieter way, a truer way. And this way does not promise success, applause, or comfort. It promises freedom. It promises peace. It promises the joy of nothing left to prove. And in that joy, you may finally understand what it means to live. To live is not to constantly strive. It is not to constantly explain. It is not to always know what comes next. To live is to breathe in the mystery and not flinch. To walk into each moment with empty hands. To trust the unfolding not because you have control, but because you finally realize you don't need it. The tree doesn't force its branches to grow. The river doesn't argue with the rocks in its path. The moon doesn't rush to be full. There is no anxiety in nature. And you, though clothed in names and roles and memories, are still a part of it. Underneath all your stories, you are still nature. You are still sky, still water, still earth. And when you remember that, when you truly feel it not as a concept, but as a living truth within your bones, your breath, your being, something in you settles. The search loses its urgency. The mind grows quiet, not because it's been conquered, but because it has been seen through. What can the mind grasp that the soul has not already surrendered? Stillness is what remains when all seeking collapses. It is not found through effort. It reveals itself when effort falls away. But to reach that place, you must be willing to lose the comfort of control. You must be willing to not know, to be nothing, to stop clinging to the raft of identity and allow yourself to float on the ocean of presence. That floating feels like death to the ego, but to the true self, it is the first breath of life. Dogen Zenji once wrote, "If you want to travel the way, do not reject even the world of senses and ideas." Indeed, this world of senses and ideas is the very place where the way unfolds. You do not need to escape the world to find stillness. You only need to stop escaping yourself. Drink your tea slowly. Feel the cup in your hand. Smell the steam. Taste the earth in every sip. Let this be enough. If peace is not possible in this moment, it will never be possible in any moment. Because peace is not elsewhere, it is here, obscured only by the mind's refusal to be here. You do not need a perfect environment. You do not need a better version of yourself. You do not need to wait for healing to be finished. All you need is to stop, soften, and listen to the place inside you that has never been afraid. It has always been there, waiting, watching, quiet, patient. It does not rush. It does not grasp. It does not ask why. It simply opens again and again like a lotus that knows the sun will rise. Can you be like that? Can you trust like that? Even now, as you read these words, there is a deeper part of you nodding, remembering, agreeing, not in language, but in feeling. That part of you is real. That part of you is home. Stillness is the path home, not because it takes you somewhere, but because it shows you there is nowhere else to go. You've been carrying your peace with you all along like a treasure buried beneath your own feet. You just forgot to dig. Now you are digging. Each breath is a shovel. Each pause is a return. Each moment of awareness is a lantern in the dark. And eventually the ground breaks. The light returns. The stillness opens not outside you, but through you. You become it. You become the silence that holds the world. You become the still lake that reflects the sky. You become the temple that requires no walls. This is the essence of Zen: no escape, no arrival, just presence deep and true. The sage and the child are not far apart. Both live in wonder. Both live in now. Return to wonder. Return to now. Let stillness be your teacher. Let simplicity be your guide. Speak less. Listen more, want less, feel more, think less, be more. Not to achieve, not to win, but to remember what it feels like to be fully alive. That is the secret behind every teaching, every scripture, every moment of awakening. Life is not something you fix. It is something you feel. So feel it now. Let the breeze touch your skin. Let the breath deepen. Let the chest rise and fall like the ocean it came from. And know this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are here, and here is where the whole universe begins. Here is where the universe breathes you, where the illusion of separation dissolves like fog in the morning light, where the boundaries between self and sky, between thought and wind, between sorrow and silence begin to blur until there is only presence, only being. You don't have to chase this moment. You don't have to reach for it. You only have to stop turning away. We turn away in so many small ways, with distraction, with judgment, with the endless compulsion to improve, achieve, escape. But there is nothing to escape when you face what is here. When you stop running, you begin to feel. And when you begin to feel, you begin to return, not to an old version of yourself, but to a deeper one, the one who never left, the one who was always watching, waiting quietly, patiently. Stillness does not ask for drama. It asks for honesty. It does not need you to rise above the world. It invites you to fall into it fully awake, to feel the raw pulse of life in the quiet drip of water, in the creak of old floorboards, in the rhythm of your own breath. Zen is not about mastering the world. It is about mastering your relationship with the world, seeing it as it is without needing to change it, meeting it where it stands without flinching, without grasping. There is a kind of love that stillness opens, not a love that clings or names, but a love that sees. When you sit in stillness long enough, you begin to see with the eyes of compassion. You see how tired everyone is. You see how much pain is carried in silent hearts. You see how rare it is for someone to truly be here with you, with themselves, with life. And instead of judging, you soften. Instead of fixing, you listen. Instead of withdrawing, you open. Stillness opens the heart not just to others, but to the parts of yourself you've neglected. The scared parts, the angry parts, the grieving parts. You stop running from them. You hold them instead. You breathe with them. You bow to them. And in that bow, you become whole. The ancient masters were not trying to transcend humanity. They were trying to embody it, fully, authentically, with nothing left outside the light of awareness. And you can too. You already are. The fact that you are here still listening, this is the practice. This is the return. You will forget. You will fall into noise again. That is part of the dance. But stillness waits always. It is the most faithful friend you will ever know. It will not scold you. It will not shame you. It will only open again and again as soon as you stop pushing. Try this. Let go of trying to feel peaceful. Let go of trying to meditate. Let go of trying to get it right. Instead, just be with what is. If there's anxiety, be with it. If there's restlessness, notice it. If there's silence, breathe into it. Let everything be exactly as it is without needing to change it. And you will discover the peace was not beyond the discomfort. It was inside the allowing. This is the heart of Zen. Not a religion, not a goal, but a deep bow to what is. A full-body yes to the present moment. And in that yes, a door opens. It doesn't lead to another place. It doesn't lead to enlightenment as you once imagined. It leads deeper into now, deeper into this, deeper into you. And suddenly even your pain becomes sacred. Even your mistakes become teachers. Even your doubts become doors. Because now nothing is outside the path. Now everything belongs. The master no longer separates light from shadow. She walks with both. She laughs with both. She bows to both. You too are becoming that master, not through perfection, but through presence. Not through knowing, but through unknowing. Not through force, but through surrender. So surrender, not as defeat, but as liberation. Surrender to the breath, to the silence, to the mystery, to the deep, trembling beauty of this human moment. You are not here to escape life. You are here to feel it, to open to it, to meet it like an old friend who speaks in wind, in stillness, in the space between words. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. The door is already open. You are already inside. Just be still enough to realize it. There is nothing you must become, no final version of yourself to chase. The idea that you are incomplete is the root of all suffering. But when you sit still, truly still, you see through that illusion. You realize that what you are is not in need of fixing. It is in need of remembering. Stillness reveals this by stripping everything away. Not with force, not with violence, but with grace, like autumn strips the trees not to punish them, but to prepare them. So let yourself be stripped. Let the ideas fall, the ones that say, you're too late, too flawed, too far gone. Let the identities fall, the achiever, the healer, the thinker, the seeker. Let the roles fall, the strong one, the broken one, the one who always needs to do more. When it all falls, what remains? Silence. Spaciousness. A quiet awareness untouched by effort, unscarred by past. A self not defined by doing, but by being. That self has always been here. You've just been looking elsewhere. It has watched you strive. It has watched you fall. It has watched you chase peace like a bird, chasing the sky, never realizing the sky is what it flies through. You are not separate from what you're seeking. You are not outside the peace. You are woven from it. You are the very breath of stillness wrapped in skin, learning again how to listen. The world will keep spinning. People will keep hurrying. The noise will never ask for your permission, but you can pause anyway. You can sit in a cafe, hands wrapped around a warm cup, and feel the steam rise into your face. You can stop in the middle of a busy street and feel your feet planted like roots in the earth. You can lie awake at 2 a.m., not wrestling the mind but watching it, like a river pass through a canyon of stars. And in those moments you are practicing true Zen, not as a technique, not as a ritual, but as a way of being. A way of saying to the universe, I am here fully, and I am not in a rush to be anywhere else. This kind of presence cannot be faked. It cannot be taught through words alone. It is cultivated through surrender, through devotion, through silence. The old Zen saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When the student is truly ready, the teacher disappears. Because the teacher was never outside you, the master was never a person. It was the breath, it was the stillness, it was the you before you was invented. That's the beauty of this path. It leads you to the place you never left. It takes you to the home you've carried in your chest since before you had a name. And in that home, there is no judgment, only warmth, only acceptance, only a silence that loves you exactly as you are, not because you are perfect, but because you are present. So sit with your imperfection. Let it breathe. Let it unfold like petals in slow motion. Do not rush it. Do not label it. Do not try to fix what was never broken. Stillness teaches that even the cracks are sacred. Even the confusion has a place. Even your doubt can become a kind of prayer if you let it bring you here. Because here is the only place healing can happen. Not in the future, not in the mind's ideas of who you should become, but in the raw, imperfect truth of now. And now is always enough. If you feel lost, sit. If you feel overwhelmed, breathe. If you feel numb, just feel that. No effort, no force, just presence. There is no failure in this, only return again and again and again. Like waves returning to the shore, like the moon returning to the same sky, like breath returning to the body that forgot it was holy. This is your invitation not to fix, but to feel, not to strive, but to settle, not to change the world, but to meet it fully, moment by moment, without armor. Let yourself be changed, not by effort, but by awareness. Let yourself become soft in the places that were once hard. Let yourself be human in the places you were told to be strong. And if the tears come, let them. If the laughter comes, let it. If nothing comes at all, let that be enough too. Stillness does not demand performance, it invites truth. And truth, when held in stillness, begins to shine. Not with brilliance, but with clarity. Not with perfection, but with peace. So be still now, not because you've figured it out, but because you're tired of trying. Let that exhaustion become the doorway. Let the silence hold you. Let this moment catch you as you fall into its arms. This is the path. This is the return. This is the stillness calling you home. Come home not to a place, but to yourself. Come home to the breath you abandoned in your hurry. Come home to the body you judged and neglected. Come home to the silence you feared would consume you, only to find it wants to embrace you. This is not the kind of home with walls. It is not made of stone or wood. It is made of stillness, of moments that no longer run away, of presence that does not ask you to be anything but awake. And when you are truly awake, you don't need to chase meaning. Life is the meaning. You don't need to construct purpose. Every step becomes sacred when taken with awareness. Even the small things, folding laundry, washing dishes, closing a door, quietly petting the dog, sitting alone in a room without distraction. These are not interruptions to life. They are life. And in stillness, you begin to see them again, not as tasks to complete, but as moments to meet, fully, gently, lovingly. The mind for so long has made you believe peace must be earned, that you must first heal, first understand, first transcend. But the truth is simpler than that. Peace is not a reward, it is a choice. A choice to stop fighting what is. A choice to stop rehearsing pain. A choice to be here now with all of it and not turn away. When the Zen master Ikkyu was asked to write a poem on the highest wisdom, he took his brush and wrote one word, attention. And when asked to elaborate, he added, attention, attention, attention. This is the secret, not cleverness, not effort, not spiritual success, just attention, pure, steady, undistracted, the kind of attention that becomes love simply by holding what is without needing it to change. You don't need to chant. You don't need to climb mountains. You don't need to wear robes or speak softly or become someone new. You only need to pause and listen and feel and breathe. And in doing so, the moment opens itself to you, like a flower opening to the sun, not because you forced it, but because you stopped forcing anything. Can you feel how much energy you've spent trying to be okay? Can you feel the tension in your body from holding it all together? The truth is, you don't need to hold anything. Let it fall. Let the need to be impressive fall. Let the need to be understood fall. Let the need to always do better fall. You will not disappear. In fact, when the masks fall, that is when you finally appear. Not the version that earns love, but the one who is love. Not the version that performs peace, but the one who is peace when the mind grows quiet. This is why Zen masters laugh. Because when the striving ends, what remains is so simple, so obvious, so already here, it's almost funny how long it took to see it. And then there's nothing left to say. The wind blows, the bird sings, the tea cools, and all of it is enough. Stillness teaches you that this life, exactly as it is not a problem to solve. It is a miracle to behold. Your breath rising and falling is already a temple. Your awareness resting in silence is already enlightenment. You do not need to climb a ladder. You need to sit on the ground. You need to feel the earth under your body and realize, I am already held. You need to look at the sky and remember nothing is missing. The work then is not effort, it is trust. Not striving, it is allowing. And the more you trust, the more you slow. The more you allow, the more you see. The more you see, the more you fall in love with the ordinary. And when you love the ordinary, nothing is ordinary anymore. The sound of someone's breath in a quiet room, the shape of a shadow on the wall, the ache in your chest that doesn't need to be solved, only held. All of it is sacred when seen through the eyes of stillness. And so the question becomes not, how do I escape? But how can I stay? How can I stay when I'm tired? How can I stay when I'm afraid? How can I stay when I want to run? You stay not by force, but by softness. You stay by breathing through the discomfort, by watching the thought without identifying with it, by allowing the storm to pass without getting swept away. And every time you stay, even for a breath, the stillness grows, not louder, just deeper, like roots reaching into the unseen, anchoring you into something real, something vast, something unshakable. You are not here to be perfect. You are not here to master stillness. You are here to remember what it feels like to be real. And in that remembering you return, not to an idea of peace, but to peace itself. Not to a fantasy of enlightenment, but to the living presence of this breath. And that is enough. Enough. Such a simple word. And yet how rarely we believe it. We wake each day measuring ourselves against invisible standards. Am I doing enough? Am I healing fast enough? Am I spiritual enough? The mind turns life into a checklist, and stillness becomes just another task on the list. But stillness doesn't care what you've achieved. It doesn't care how long you've meditated, or whether you're doing it right. It asks only one thing: will you be here now, with whatever is arising, joy, grief, boredom, longing, fatigue, and not try to escape it? That's where transformation begins, not through grand revelations, but through humble presence. Stillness doesn't make your life easier. It makes it real. It lets you taste each moment instead of rushing past it. It lets you feel pain instead of numbing it. It lets you love others without controlling them. It lets you love yourself without needing to earn it. You no longer need to fix your life before you feel peace. Peace doesn't come after your to-do list is done. It arrives the moment you put the list down and take one conscious breath. Breathe with me now, not for a result, not as a technique, but simply because you are alive. In, out, that's it. The breath is always now. It doesn't live in your regrets. It doesn't worry about your future. It just is. And in that breath, there is no problem, no story, no past or future, just this space, this beat, this quiet moment of grace. And maybe for the first time in a while, you don't need anything more. Stillness is radical because it refuses to be productive. It refuses to prove itself. It has no argument to win, no image to maintain. It is the ultimate rebellion against a culture of noise. And so when you sit in stillness, even for 5 minutes, you are reclaiming your life. You are saying, I will not live only on the surface. You are saying, I choose depth. I choose now. I choose to listen beneath the noise. And what you find there is not emptiness. It is fullness, so vast, so alive, it humbles you. It reminds you that you are not the center of the universe, but you are a sacred part of it. That the stars do not revolve around your plans, but they shine on you anyway. That the trees do not ask your permission to bloom, but they offer you their beauty without condition. Stillness reveals that life has never been waiting for you to be perfect. It has only been waiting for you to show up, to notice, to feel, to belong again. You do not belong to your fears. You do not belong to your wounds. You do not belong to the version of you that lives only in your head. You belong to this moment, to the earth beneath your feet, to the space inside your chest where breath meets silence. And when you live from that space, even the most ordinary acts become holy. Washing your hands, walking down a hallway, looking into the eyes of a stranger and actually seeing them. Stillness turns your life into a kind of prayer, not the kind you speak with words, but the kind you live with presence. And the more you live like that, the more the world changes around you. Not because you forced it, but because your inner landscape changed and the outer world mirrored it back. You are no longer reacting. You are responding. You are no longer rushing. You are resting even as you move. You are no longer clinging. You are trusting the flow even when you don't understand it. That trust, quiet, unshakable, is the foundation of a still life. It doesn't come from belief. It comes from experience. From all the times you thought you were falling apart, only to find you were falling into place. From all the times you were certain you'd lost your way, only to find the path waiting under your feet. From all the times silence felt unbearable until you realized it was just the sound of your real self rising. Stillness is not always gentle. Sometimes it breaks you open. Sometimes it strips you bare, but always it brings you home. To the breath, to the body, to the truth beneath all truths. This is enough. Not someday. Not when you've healed. Not when everything makes sense. Now, right here, with your aching, with your doubt, with your deep, slow remembering. Let it all be part of the path, because it is. Let it all be part of the path. The confusion, the longing, the loneliness, the small joys that flicker and disappear too fast. Let the heaviness be part of it. Let the lightness be part of it. Let the dull ache you carry without words be part of it too. Nothing needs to be left out. In stillness there are no mistakes, only moments waiting to be met. You've been taught to fix, to push, to overcome. But stillness asks you to welcome. Not just what is easy, but what is difficult. Not just what is peaceful, but what is messy. It says everything belongs here, even this, even now, even you. And that belonging, it changes you. Not all at once, not dramatically, but quietly, gently. Like how the tide changes the shape of a shore over years of patient return. The mind wants speed, but the soul wants depth, and depth never arrives in a rush. You must slow down to meet it. You must soften to hold it. You must listen not with your ears, but with your whole being. Listen to the wind passing through the trees, to the silence between the words, to the pulse of your own life whispering, I am still here, I have always been here. This is not about effort. This is not about earning worth. This is not about becoming spiritual. It is about unlearning. Unlearning the story that said you are not enough. Unlearning the reflex to look outside yourself for peace. Unlearning the habit of leaving the moment in search of something better. There is nothing better than presence. Nothing higher than awareness. Nothing more sacred than what is real right here, right now. So let go. Let go of the drama of becoming. Let go of the fantasy of some future self who has everything figured out. Let go of the armor you wear to be strong. Let go of the shame that has become too familiar. Let it all fall like autumn leaves, not because you forced them off, but because the season has changed. And in their place feel the bare branches of your being, honest, exposed, alive. The ego wants certainty. Stillness gives you mystery. The ego wants control. Stillness gives you trust. The ego wants identity. Stillness gives you truth. And truth does not shout. It does not sparkle. It does not sell itself. It sits in silence. It waits for you. It watches to see if you are ready to see without the filters, feel without the story, live without the constant defense. And when you are, when even for a breath you stop clinging, truth reveals itself not as something new, but as something that was always there, buried beneath your trying. You realize you don't need to be someone else. You realize that wholeness isn't something you earn, it's what you uncover. You realize that the deepest healing doesn't come from becoming something greater, but from finally being what is. This is why stillness is the greatest teacher. Not because it gives you answers, but because it makes the questions unnecessary. Not because it fixes your life, but because it shows you there was nothing wrong with it. Not because it makes you powerful in the world's eyes, but because it makes you whole in your own. And from that wholeness, you begin to live differently. Not louder, but deeper. Not faster, but truer. Not for recognition, but from alignment. You speak less, but when you speak, your words land like raindrops on thirsty soil. You move slower, but with more direction, more clarity, more grace. You love without needing to be loved back, because now love flows from fullness, not from lack. This is the stillness you've been craving all along. Not the absence of life, but the full presence of it. Not the end of struggle, but the end of struggling against it. Not peace as a concept, but peace as a felt experience in your breath, your body, your bones. And when you live from this place, the world begins to mirror it back. You find people who meet you in the pause. You find moments that no longer slip past you. You find joy in things so small they used to go unnoticed. The weight you carried starts to feel lighter. Not because the world changed, but because your relationship to it did. This is the gift of stillness. It returns you to yourself, not the self that performs, not the self that proves, but the self that simply is. Breathe, feel that, let it settle. And when you're ready, take that stillness with you into the world, not as a shield, but as a presence, not to escape it, but to meet it fully. Stillness is not the end of the path. It is the ground beneath it, the breath between the steps, the silence behind every word. Let it hold you. Let it change you. Let it bring you home. Home. That word, when truly understood, has no walls, no keys, no address. It is not a place you reach. It is the place you remember. You could be standing in a crowded city or sitting alone in your room. You could be heartbroken, joyful, weary, or uncertain. And still home is available. It's there in the pause, in the breath, in the moment you stop searching and simply feel. Stillness is home, and it welcomes you without conditions. It doesn't ask where you've been or why you stayed away. It only opens always the moment you're ready to come back. We live in a world that makes us forgets how to rest, forgets how to listen, forgets how to just be. But forgetting is not the end. Forgetting is part of the dance. And every time you return to stillness, something softens inside. Something realigns. Something whispers, yes, this is what you've been missing. Not more noise, not more answers, not more becoming. Just this. A bird singing in the distance, the feeling of your breath moving like wind through a quiet forest. The ache in your chest that doesn't need to be solved, only seen. Stillness doesn't erase your pain, but it holds it so gently, so completely that your pain forgets how to scream. It softens. It exhales. It becomes a doorway instead of a wall. And through that doorway you walk not away from your humanity, but deeper into it. Because what if awakening isn't about becoming something higher? What if it's about becoming fully human? To feel the rain without resisting it, to feel the silence without filling it, to feel the sadness without needing to escape it. Stillness is not an escape from life. It is the depth of life untouched by speed. It is where the heart finally speaks, where the body finally feels safe, where the soul, long silenced, begins to sing again. No audience, no performance, just truth. That's what you've been longing for, isn't it? Not success, not applause, but truth. Something real, something that doesn't vanish when the lights go off, something that holds you when the world forgets your name. Stillness is that. It doesn't need to be earned. It only needs to be received. But to receive it, you must be willing to stop, to stand still in a world that never stops moving, to listen in a world that never stops shouting, to feel in a world that numbs. It will feel strange at first. You will want to check your phone. You will want to solve something. You will want to move away from the discomfort. Stay through the itch. Stay through the doubt. Stay through the fear that you are wasting time. Because you are not wasting time, you are reclaiming it. You are telling the world and yourself, I am not just a machine. I am not just a name. I am not just a role. I am here. I am alive. I am enough. Let the stillness rise inside you like dawn over a restless sea. Let it touch the forgotten corners of your heart. Let it gather the pieces of you scattered by years of noise. You don't need to know what comes next. Stillness teaches you that next is just another word for not now. And now is the only place where healing lives. Now is the only place where joy breathes. Now is the only place where you can meet yourself without distortion. You were never meant to live your life on fast forward. You were meant to feel it, to inhabit it, to move through it like water through a sacred stream. Yes, there will be rocks. Yes, there will be bends. Yes, there will be moments you cannot see the bottom. But the current carries you if you let it, and stillness helps you let it. It's not passive. It's not weak. It's the most courageous thing you can do, to be here fully, without knowing what's next, without demanding guarantees, without hiding behind distraction. To live from this place is not easy, but it is true, and truth once lived makes life whole again. So be whole, not because you've fixed everything, but because you've stopped pretending that anything was ever missing. You are not your wounds. You are the light that shines through them. You are not your mistakes. You are the awareness that learns from them. You are not your thoughts. You are the stillness that watches them rise and fall like waves returning to the sea. So come back. Come back again and again, to the breath, to the silence, to the part of you that knows how to love this moment just as it is. And in that return, you are free. Freedom doesn't always come with a dramatic moment. Sometimes it arrives like this, a quiet exhale after holding your breath for years. A sudden stillness in the mind you thought would never stop spinning. A soft realization not that you've reached some final destination, but that you never needed to go anywhere at all. This breath is already enough. This silence is already whole. This moment unnoticed by the world is the one you've been waiting for. You were never broken, only distracted, only pulled from yourself by noise, expectation, and 1,000 whispered lies about your worth. But the truth does not shout. It waits, it listens, it watches. And when you stop moving for long enough, it opens to you like a door you didn't know was there. No locks, no guards, just space, just light, just the wide, wordless welcome of reality as it is. Stillness asks you to drop your defenses not because you've won, but because you realize there's nothing left to protect. There's nothing to defend when you're no longer pretending to be anything other than what you are. That is the beginning of peace, not the end of conflict, but the end of your resistance to what is. Even pain, when met without resistance, begins to soften. Even grief, when held in stillness, begins to shine with a quiet love. Even fear, when seen clearly, turns into trembling presence and then into stillness itself. You don't need to get rid of your emotions. You don't need to suppress your thoughts. You only need to see them, not as enemies, but as passing weather. You are the sky that holds it all. You are the space wide enough to let anything come and let it go when it's ready. And what is left when all things go? Stillness. Not a blankness, but a fullness that doesn't cling. Not an absence, but a presence deeper than words. Not a state of mind, but the ground beneath every state of mind. Let this stillness become your refuge. Not a place to run to, but a place to live from. A foundation, a home, a returning. Let it be the soil where your love grows. Let it be the source from which your voice rises. Let it be the place you move from when the world asks something of you. Because when you live from stillness, everything changes without anything needing to be different. You no longer speak to impress. You speak to connect. You no longer act to prove. You act to serve. You no longer run from the hard moments. You walk into them slowly, breath by breath, knowing you are not alone. Because the stillness is with you, in you, as you. It does not abandon you in pain. It does not disappear in failure. It does not withdraw when you forget it. It remains, always, like the earth beneath your feet, like the breath that returns even when you've stopped noticing, like the light behind your closed eyes waiting to be seen again. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is practice. This is presence. This is the soft revolution of a life rooted in awareness. And the more you practice, the less you perform. You begin to strip away everything that isn't true, the masks, the noise, the anxious pretending. You don't need them anymore. You realize that your presence, your bare, honest, unfiltered presence, is the most powerful thing you can offer this world. Not your accomplishments, not your status, not your certainty, just you, quiet, real, whole. And when you show up like that, life responds differently, not always with comfort. Not always with ease, but with clarity. You see what matters. You see what's illusion. You stop chasing ghosts and start feeding your soul. The food your soul needs is not fame or perfection. It is rest. It is silence. It is connection. It is truth. And all of these live inside you already. You just have to return. So return. Every day, every hour, every moment, if that's what it takes. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the still, quiet place that asks for nothing and offers everything. Let this become your rhythm. Not rushing, not performing, just returning. Until returning becomes resting. And resting becomes living. And living becomes loving. Not as a task, but as your natural state. This is the gift of stillness. It doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you've always been. And that revelation is the beginning of everything. Let the revelation be quiet. Let it arrive without thunder, without fire. Let it come like dawn, soft, slow, unapologetically certain. Let it whisper through your ribs, not as a command, but as a remembering. You were never meant to shout your worth. You were meant to embody it silently, deeply, honestly. Stillness teaches you that. It strips away the need to declare, to explain, to convince. You don't need to perform your awakening. You just need to live it. Not on a stage, but in the way you pour your tea. In the way you listen without needing to reply. In the way your eyes rest on the moment, like they finally trust it. And when you trust the moment, you begin to trust yourself. Not the version of you created for the world, but the version that sits beneath all the masks, the one that simply is. That self doesn't need to fix everything. It doesn't need to understand it all. It just breathes. It just is. And in being, it becomes a lighthouse. Not because it shines the brightest, but because it doesn't move. Your stillness becomes a place of refuge for others too, not by teaching them, not by guiding them, but by showing them wordlessly that it's safe to stop running. And in that safety, others remember too. The child inside them sits down, the noise starts to fade, the armor cracks, and beneath it there is a soft place, vulnerable, sacred, real. This is what your stillness offers, not answers, but space. Space to breathe, space to feel, space to remember who they were before the world asked them to become something else. It's the greatest offering you can give, your own wholeness quietly shared. But this offering doesn't come from effort. It comes from your willingness to be where you are, to walk into every moment like it is worthy of your full presence, because it is. Even the difficult ones, especially the difficult ones. The tears, the tension, the anger, the ache. These are not signs that you've failed. They are invitations. Each one says, stay, don't leave this, don't abandon yourself here. Because when you stay, even through the discomfort, you build a kind of strength the world rarely understands. Not the strength of force, but the strength of surrender. The strength to feel without flinching, to see without turning away, to be without needing to escape. And that strength, that stillness does not make you separate from life. It makes you more intimate with it. You begin to notice things others miss. The way someone's voice softens when they speak from the heart. The way light flickers on the wall like it's telling you a story. The way silence wraps around a room and asks everyone to breathe. Life becomes poetry again. Not because it's changed, but because you have changed. Your eyes are softer now. Your breath is deeper. Your soul is quieter, not because it has less to say, but because it no longer needs to shout. And in this space, in this stillness, you begin to live in rhythm with life. Not as a performance, not as a technique, but as a way of being. You walk slower, you listen longer, you love deeper. Not because you're trying to be better, but because you've let go of everything that isn't real. And what remains after all the striving, after all the noise, after all the identities have burned away in the fire of awareness is something impossibly simple. Presence. Not the kind that tries to be mindful, but the kind that forgets itself entirely in the fullness of now. You no longer ask, what do I get from this moment? You ask, how deeply can I meet it? You no longer ask, how can I fix myself? You ask, can I trust myself to unfold moment by moment without rushing the bloom? That trust is stillness. That unfolding is grace. And that moment, this moment, is everything. Let it hold you. Let it shape you. Let it speak to the parts of you that still think they need to be more. And when those parts resist, and they will, don't fight them. Welcome them, hold them, let them dissolve in your breath. Because the breath is wise. It knows how to hold. It knows how to release. It knows how to bring you back. Back to the moment, back to the center, back to the quiet truth that you are already whole. Stillness is not the end. It is the way. The way is not something you chase, it's something you align with. It doesn't ask for speed. It doesn't demand perfection. It only asks you to listen. And not just with your ears, but with your skin, your bones, your breath. Because the deeper truths of life are not spoken. They are felt. in the silence between footsteps, in the quiet space after the exhale, in the sacred pause before you say yes or no. Stillness gives you back that pause, that sacred moment where clarity lives, that breath before reaction where choice becomes possible again. How often have you missed it? How many times have you spoken too quickly, agreed too fast, run too hard, just to escape the discomfort of not knowing? Stillness teaches you to stay in that space, to stay in the not knowing long enough for the truth to rise on its own. Not the truth of logic or strategy, but the truth that lives beneath the noise, the truth that feels like peace, not pressure. And sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is say nothing, to sit in silence and let life speak instead. It speaks through wind, through firelight, through the weight of your own body against the earth. It speaks in stillness because that's the language of what is real. This world is obsessed with movement, with ambition, with becoming. But what if there's nothing to become? What if the real work is to unbecome everything that was never truly yours? The stories, the shame, the striving. Let them fall away, one by one, like old skin, like leaves from the tree in autumn released not because the tree is broken, but because it's ready to grow again. Stillness is your autumn. It invites you to release not as loss, but as liberation. It teaches you that letting go is not the end of something, but the beginning of seeing clearly. And when you see clearly, you realize the moment you stop trying to prove yourself, you remember yourself. And what you remember is soft, vast, unshakable. It cannot be named, it cannot be captured, but it can be lived. And it lives not in your image, not in your mind, not in the version of you others approve of. It lives in your stillness. When you sit quietly with a storm inside your chest and refuse to run. When you walk slowly through a world that moves too fast and you don't apologize for your pace. When you let go of the outcome and breathe anyway. This is what mastery looks like, not control, but trust, not force, but surrender, not knowing more, but needing less. And in that needing less, you begin to feel more. You begin to weep for no reason. You begin to laugh in silence. You begin to feel the ache of the world, not as a burden, but as a prayer. A prayer that says, please, just be here with me. Just feel this with me. Just stay. Stillness is how you stay. Not in the external sense anyone can stay in a room, but in the soul sense, in the way you stop leaving yourself, the way you stop abandoning your own breath, the way you stop numbing your own heart. Because the moment you truly stay, you start to heal, not through effort, but through presence. And the healing is not loud, it's not dramatic, it's slow, it's quiet, like roots growing in the dark. But those roots will hold you through heartbreak, through uncertainty, through change. You won't need to explain them. You'll just feel it, this groundedness that was always inside you waiting for your stillness to awaken it. Let this groundedness be your anchor. Let it hold you in joy. Let it hold you in fear. Let it hold you when the mind races, when the tears fall, when the way forward feels hidden. Because the path is never lost. It's only quiet. And stillness is how you hear it again. There will be days when you forget. There will be hours when you rush, when you scroll, when you reach for something, anything to distract you. That's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to return to the breath, to the silence, to the space inside you that has never been afraid. That space is stillness. It is not something you visit. It is something you are. And the more you remember that, the less you seek. Because you are no longer chasing peace, you are carrying it. You are no longer asking for the way, you are walking it. Breath by breath, step by step, inward, homeward, now, the only time there is, the only doorway you will ever walk through. The mind drags you forward, chasing futures not promised. The heart pulls you backward, replaying stories that no longer live. But stillness, it draws you inward, into the truth of now, into the breath that is not memory, into the moment that is not yet tainted by anticipation. And when you land here fully softly without condition, you understand, this is what I've been missing. Not some distant breakthrough, not some grand transformation, but this breath, this pause, this taste of what it means to be undivided, unhurried, unafraid. And here the world begins to look different, not because it's changed, but because you have. You are seeing it without filters, without the fog of judgment, without the clutter of expectation. You see a tree, and it is not just a tree, it is stillness with roots. You see a stranger, and they are not just passing flesh, they are another pulse of the same mystery that lives in you. You see your own reflection, and you do not flinch. Stillness doesn't make you perfect, it makes you whole. And wholeness is not a finish line, it is the gentle realization that nothing was ever missing. You begin to live in alignment, not because you're trying to be good or right or holy, but because you've stopped betraying your own presence. You no longer act to be seen. You act because it feels true. You no longer speak to be heard. You speak because there is something real rising in your chest, asking to be released. And when there is nothing to say, you say nothing. Because stillness has taught you that silence can be the most honest response of all. This is not weakness, this is not passivity, this is power rooted in clarity. This is strength that does not shout. You are not here to win the world. You are here to be with it, to meet it in each breath, to hold it with soft hands and open eyes, to love it without owning it, to let it go without losing yourself. And all of that becomes possible when you live from stillness. Stillness is the great clarifier. It does not remove the chaos. It removes the illusion that you are the chaos. And what remains is a you that no longer needs to rush. A you that no longer avoids the mirror. A you that has remembered how to bow to the moment, to the breath, to the sacred ordinary. Let yourself bow more often, not just in temples, not just in moments of awe, but in your kitchen, on the sidewalk, in the middle of your most difficult days. Bow to what is, because what is always your teacher. The grief that slows your steps, the joy that surprises your chest, the confusion that empties your mind, the stillness that holds it all. None of it is separate, none of it is a mistake, all of it belongs. The ego resists this. It wants to edit, to curate, to cut away the pieces that feel uncomfortable. But stillness invites you to expand, to grow large enough to hold every contradiction, to become vast enough that nothing must be pushed out. This is real peace, not the absence of noise, but the refusal to turn away from it, not the elimination of conflict, but the courage to meet it with presence. And that presence, that simple, grounded awareness, is not something you develop. It's something you remember. And remembering happens in the small pauses, in the gentle returns, in the moments where you could choose distraction and instead you choose breath. That choice, that single choice, again and again, is the path. Not grand, but sacred. Not famous, but free. You will still fall. You will still forget. You will still grieve. But now you fall into something that holds you. You forget and remember sooner. You grieve, but you don't collapse. Because you know beneath it all there is a stillness that doesn't leave. And that knowing, that deep embodied knowing, becomes your sanctuary. No matter what happens, no matter who comes or goes, no matter how dark the night becomes, the silence will remain, the breath will return, the stillness will wait. It always has. And now finally so do you. Now finally so do you. You are no longer outrunning yourself. You are no longer chasing a better version of this moment. You are no longer negotiating with life, asking it to be gentler before you agree to stay. You stay, not because it's easy, but because it's real, because it's yours, because somewhere deep inside you've realized there is nothing more sacred than being fully here. And that here, the one we all avoid, the one we bury in endless scrolling and doing and fixing, is the very place where your soul breathes freely. You feel it now, don't you? The slow rhythm of presence, the way it wraps around your ribs like warmth, the way it silences your need to impress, the way it makes everything enough. This is not resignation. This is awakening. This is not giving up. This is letting go. Letting go of the myth that peace is elsewhere. Letting go of the lie that love must be earned. Letting go of the belief that life must be extraordinary to be beautiful. Stillness doesn't ask you to abandon the world. It asks you to return to it with open hands and quiet eyes. To re-enter your life not as a stranger, but as a pilgrim. Not to fix, not to conquer, but to witness, to honor, to see. To walk down the same hallway with new awareness. To say the same words with a softer voice. To touch the same routines now, wrapped in reverence. Because when you are still, everything becomes holy. The sink becomes an altar. The silence becomes a sanctuary. Your breath becomes a prayer that no one taught you, but somehow you always knew. And in that prayer there is no asking, only gratitude, not for things but for being, for the miracle of having a body that feels, for the ache that reminds you of your humanity, for the quiet that reminds you of your essence. This is the fullness that stillness reveals, that even in solitude you are never alone, that even in silence life is still speaking, that even in the pause everything is unfolding perfectly. And when you live from this place, this deep-rooted knowing, you no longer need to explain yourself. You no longer need to prove your worth or beg for space or rush to be understood. You rest. You rest in the simplicity of being. You rest in the softness of enough. You rest in the joy of knowing that this breath is home, that this moment is alive, that you are already what you seek. And if the world doesn't recognize it, let it be. If no one claps, if no one sees, let it be. You are not here to be seen. You are here to see. To see the divine in everything. To see the sacred in the mundane. To see the way light moves across a table and realize this, too, is a miracle. That is the gift of stillness. Not an escape from reality, but a deeper dive into it. So deep that the old stories no longer hold. So deep that suffering becomes tenderness. So deep that time slows down and you realize the eternal lives not in forever, but in now. Yes, now. The same now you've been rushing through for years. The same now that held you in your grief. The same now that waited for you even when you forgot how to listen. It's still here, still offering itself, still asking nothing but your presence. You don't have to bring anything, not your wisdom, not your plans, not your regret. Just bring your breath, bring your attention, bring your bare, trembling heart, and that will be enough. That will always be enough. Because life doesn't want your performance, it wants your participation. It doesn't want you perfect, it wants you present. And you who have traveled so far are finally beginning to understand. There is no treasure greater than this moment met fully, no path holier than the one beneath your feet, no home more complete than the stillness inside your chest. So keep walking, keep breathing, keep listening. Let the silence carry you. Let the breath steady you. Let the stillness remind you again and again and again. You are already here, and here is enough. Here is enough. Let those 3 words settle into your body. Let them echo into the quiet spaces within you, the spaces you've filled with striving, with doubt, with the ache of always becoming. Let them move through the tension in your shoulders, through the clench in your jaw, through the restless rhythm of a heart that's been asked to prove itself every single day. Here is enough. You don't need more time. You don't need more answers. You don't need more clarity, more confirmation, more signs. You need presence. You need breath. You need to return, not to a version of yourself, not to some imagined ideal, but to this breath, this heartbeat, this moment that does not ask you to be anything but awake. You've run long enough. You've waited long enough. You've tried so hard to arrive at a place that was never ahead of you. It was always beneath you. Stillness is not the prize. It is the soil. It is not the goal. It is the ground. And when you finally feel it, really feel it, you realize peace was never a destination. It was a posture, a remembering, a gentle surrender into the truth of now. And now, beloved soul, is where everything begins again. Stillness is not just silence, it's intimacy. It's the moment you allow the present to touch you, without conditions, without filters, without needing it to make sense. It's the moment you let go of needing to heal, and suddenly healing begins. It's the moment you stop pushing grief away and it wraps around you like a companion, not an enemy. It's the moment you stop rushing to forgive and forgiveness opens in you like a slow bloom, imperfect but real. Stillness teaches that there is wisdom in the waiting, that sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is stay. Stay in the room, stay with the breath, stay with the feeling that says, I don't know what's next. Because you don't need to know what's next to be fully here. You only need to soften, to unclench, to listen without trying to solve, to feel without trying to escape. In stillness, everything gets simpler. You begin to notice the way sunlight falls through a window and touches your skin like a silent blessing. You begin to hear the spaces between sounds. You begin to cherish the quiet more than the answer. And suddenly you're not trying to master life. You're letting life touch you. This is the sacred reversal, the moment when you realize I don't need to hold it all together. I only need to be present for what's here. Not what should be, not what could be, but what is. What is may be messy. It may be raw. It may not look anything like the vision you held in your head, but it's real. And what is real is always holy. Stillness reveals that you don't need to be fixed. You need to be felt. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be held by yourself, by breath, by the open space you were once afraid of. You begin to love that space. You begin to find yourself there, not the self you curated, but the one that just is. The one that doesn't try so hard. The one that knows how to be soft. The one that still believes in beauty. The one that has been waiting for you to stop so it could be seen again. Stillness is not the end of your journey. It is the gentle bend in the path where your soul begins to lead. Not the ego, not the wounds, not the noise, but the soul, clear-eyed, quiet, utterly at home in now. Let it lead. Let it breathe. Let it speak in its own way, through goosebumps, through silence, through sudden tears that make no sense but feel like truth. Let it show you that slowing down was never failure. It was how you found the rhythm that was always yours. And when you find that rhythm, you stop comparing. You stop forcing. You stop apologizing for the pace of your own becoming. Because becoming is not a race. It is a return. And return is not weakness. It is power, the quiet kind. The kind that moves mountains without shouting. The kind that heals without fixing. The kind that changes the world by first changing your relationship with yourself. Stillness changes everything, not through force, but through presence. Not by teaching you how to be more, but by helping you see that you never needed more to begin with. You only needed this moment, this breath, this truth. You are already home. Home is not a place you find. It's a place within you that becomes quiet enough to feel. It's not built with walls, it's made of breath. It's the way your shoulders drop when there's nothing left to carry. It's the way your eyes soften when they're no longer scanning for danger, for comparison, for approval. Home is where striving ends. Stillness is that home. Not a room, not a sanctuary far from noise, but the space inside you that was never touched by noise to begin with. The part of you that didn't disappear, you just stopped listening. And now you are listening again. Not with your ears, with your whole body, with your presence, with your honesty. And what you hear is not a voice with words. It's not advice, it's not explanation. It's just this: you are enough. This moment without decoration, without accomplishment, is sacred. And when you stop looking outside to validate your peace, you begin to feel the quiet rising within you, like a tide that was never gone, only forgotten. There's a stillness beneath the current of your thoughts. There's a stillness beneath the weight of your worries. There's a stillness that knows who you are beneath your name, beneath your roles, beneath your story. You don't need to build it. You don't need to reach for it. You only need to rest in it. Even now, even after all the noise, you can return. Return to your body, not as an idea, but as a home. Return to your breath, not to control it, but to feel it. Return to this moment, not to judge it, but to receive it. There is no part of you that cannot be met by stillness. Your joy, your sorrow, your confusion, your weariness, all of it can be held in silence.